Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here today. On behalf of NIIT University, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all the students who've joined us for today's session and our four special guests. At NU, we are committed to taking up issues important to high school graduates and their parents. And amidst all the uncertainty around us, we felt it's important to address something that is brewing currently and is on everybody's mind. Today, our topic of discussion will be choosing a college post pandemic and making the right choice. Before we start, I'd like to request all of you to please keep your microphones on mute and also any other gadgets like your phones around you on mute. We've been receiving many questions from you. Those will be taken during the evening today. Our speakers, however, will be more than happy to take on additional questions, if any, during the session. You're requested to type these questions in the chat box window on the right side of your screen so that we can address them as we go along. Let me begin by introducing our speakers for today. Dr. Sagarika Bhatia. She wears many hats, that of an edu coach, academic consultant, blogger, and curriculum developer. She's played various roles as a specialist in IB and IGCSE education in a career spanning over 20 years. Having more than 10 years experience as a career counselor and subject choice counselor, she's recently been awarded as Best Academician Award by the World Economic Forum. Welcome, Dr. Sagarika. Swati Watts, college guidance counselor and IBDP psychological examiner. Swati has a rich experience of over 16 years as an educationist and career counselor. She is an IBDP examiner and is currently handling the dual responsibilities as college guidance counselor and IB psych instructor at Lancers International School, Gurgaon. With a master's in psychology and a PG diploma in counseling from NCRT, she's certified in Thomas profiling from Thomas Assessments and a transactional analyst from Tacit. Swati has played a variety of roles in education industry and has worked proactively for companies like Educomp, Mafoy, IMS, and schools like Modern School Barakamba and Scottish High. Pooja Davar, counseling psychologist and career advisor, Scottish International School. Pooja, after completing her bachelor and master's degree in clinical psychology from LSR Delhi, decided her training as a clinical psychologist must move to educational counseling. She worked in various prominent schools like St. Columbus, Sanskriti, and Pathways for the next 16 years, and over the years has been a visiting career counselor to Scindia School, Lawrence School, Sagar School, among others, for workshops for teachers, students, and parents from national and international curricula. Swati Salunke, Managing Director, Growth Center. Swati has chosen a rather different mode of contribution towards the society. Her major aspiration centers on developing the concept of vocational guidance in India. This dream of transforming the concept of counseling has been the driving force of her company, Growth Center, since its inception in 1999. Be it a student facing problems with his or her studies, or a professional baffled by the challenge of mid-term career change, Swati strongly believes in the fact that being in the right career leads to overall contentment in an individual, and being able to enjoy what one is doing is essential for a fulfilling life. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so very much for being part of this session today.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
So like I said, we've got a barrage of questions beforehand from the audience today, and we'll be taking some questions as we go along. But let me begin by posing the most important thing on everybody's mind today. What really are the common options for undergraduate studies for an IB, IGCSE high school grad these days? And let me begin by, throwing this open to all four of you.
Okay, if I may say,
Sure.
as we all know that, IB gives a very eclectic mix of subjects, because they don't concentrate only on, say, very strict conventional stream of either sciences or on commerce or on humanities subjects. In fact, they prefer if the students pick out one from each academic discipline. Moreover, the curriculum is also constructed in a way where it is holistic development for the student in terms of whether it is, say, community service, or it is, say theory of knowledge, or extended essay for that matter. So what they do is they emphasize more on the holistic development there. Now, any IB student, when they have a choice of applying for the higher education, they want to carry forward the same kind of choice which they can get in the colleges as well. They don't want to, having been trained for 4 years, whether it's IGCSE and IB combined, or just 2 years of IB diploma, they want to expand their horizon of where they can get the choice of areas. Say again, one from, say, sciences, one from commerce, but looking at what the Indian universities sometimes give is more of a very conventional, where the doors are closed. Once you get into a particular, say, undergraduation course, there is no choice, or there is no flexibility of mobility between one subject to another. And that is where they look for outside doors and outside colleges, where they feel that, where the mobility is more, flexibility is more, and the eclectic mix of subject options are also more.
Yeah, now with respect to your A levels and colleges, I mean, students following 11th and 12th from your normally state board colleges, right now in India has really opened up to undergrad education. Initially, it was a concern during our times, but nowadays it's no longer a concern. You've got liberal arts coming up, you've got management studies, you've got a plethora of universities which have started, the private universities which have started courses. There are lots of them to name. One of them is your own university. You have D.Y. Patil, you've got Symbiosis, you've got Ashoka. There are so many universities which have come up with that courses. And not only that, there are also universities which have come up with mix. That is, you can follow 2 years over here, 1 year abroad, instead of going all the way abroad. So right now for the Indian audience, actually only going abroad is not an option. Even staying in India is actually a very, very viable option to be considered. Yeah. Over to my other colleague.
Yeah. I actually agree to what Ms. Davar and ma'am has added. Over here, I would also like to mention that definitely IGCSE and the International Baccalaureate, the students are being offered more of a liberal type of a syllabus and curricula. The basic reason that why they were, like what I have seen, there is a shift also in their options. Earlier, they were looking for outside Indian options more often. Why? Because they were looking for a similar rigorous curriculum. They were also looking for diversity. And now, as we can see, there is a shift. So the students who are pursuing IGCSE and IB, they are also happily looking for universities which are coming up, which are offering liberal education, or which are actually ready to take in a student who is not doing you can say a physics, chemistry and biology, a typical science subject, who are also doing physics, psychology and economics. So universities in India are also very open to take such students. And hence there is a shift. Also the type of programs. So definitely these students are keen on doing something which is liberal education. But similarly, they're also looking for science-oriented fields. They're also looking for business, entrepreneurship and economics. So IGCSE and IB, because of the type of, the way the curriculum has built up, the way they work on the theory of knowledge or their extended essay, it really enhances their critical thinking, the creativity and also the communication skills. And I think so these students are ready for both international colleges as well as Indian colleges, as like till they can justify the skill sets which have been developed.
Yes.
Definitely, even I'll agree to all the three ladies out here. All possible options are open for the international board students. Not to forget the integrated master's program also, which are open by various universities. So I think there is plethora, and that is what, it's just not arts, commerce or science, maybe what you and me studied a few years ago. There are n number of options. The majors, minors have been shifted. A lot of universities, especially the private universities in India, are taking, I think they are coming up every now and then with new courses. So I think be it an Indian student from class 12, from any of the boards, as well as international students, there is a lot in India, and definitely abroad, it's still the more, I would say it's a plethora. There is no end to it. From A to Z courses all are available for them.
That's nice. So, I'd like to go back to Pooja. Pooja, what would be your advice for students who are now applying to colleges? Um so, what's on their mind since you are such an expert? So, what do you think will be your top advice for those students?
Okay. Yeah. Again, when any student applies in any college, be it domestic university or international university, I think in my experience, what I have seen is both student and parent, both of them they have their own expectations. So students are looking at the university from a different perspective where again, they feel that they'll be able to carry forward their learning, whatever they have learned in 12 years of education, if they can build upon that learning in that particular university. Also, they are looking at, again, the diversity in terms of the student community. So more they are looking in terms of what are the co-curricular activities, what kind of international or national domestic students, what is the percentage that the university is looking at. More diverse it is, better it is that the students say they would like to pick up. However, on the other hand, what parents are looking for, they are looking for two things. One, of course, they're looking for what is the kind of faculty, how strong the faculty, what is the reputation of the faculty in terms of, again, because as we all know, teachers build a nation. So the kind of perspective, the kind of approach teachers give out through their lectures, through their seminars, through their interaction with the student, that is the beginning of a different world altogether for students learning. And that's the kind of learning they carry forward when they get into the world of work. So parents also look at what is the value system, what is the teaching, what is the learning that my child is going to get for next 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, whatever number of years that the child is enrolled with, what kind of faculty that the child is going to interact with. Also, somewhere down the line, whether we like it or we don't like it, but in my experience, I have come across this question a lot of times by my parents, what is the return on investment for my child? So in terms of what is the internship opportunity that this college is giving? What is the placement opportunity that my child is getting after that? So if we we combine everything together, then we are looking at what is the basic value, what is the basic learning domain, the subject domain that the college is offering to the student in the form of not just the academic, but also in the form of faculty interaction, also in the form of, again, the kind of student body one is interacting with, in the form of the value system one is taking forward to. And what is it as a final product that my child is going to come out of us? So if I combine everything together, that is what any child, any parent looks for from a particular university.
Pooja, I hear you talk about what's on the top of their mind, but why is the overseas degree or going abroad such a huge big pull for students who study the international board in India?
As I mentioned earlier, see, international board gives you an eclectic mix of things. So here again, as far as in our, say, state board or a national curriculum, we do have very tight compartments as far as school education is concerned. We do have humanities-based subjects. We do have commerce-based subjects. We also have science-based subjects. So if somebody has, very few schools actually give you an option of picking up, say, physics with, say, photography for that matter at the school level, or maybe physics with accountancy for that matter. However, when we are looking at an IB curriculum, that gives you that kind of a mix. And that is what, again, of course, nowadays we do have liberal arts universities coming in, but it's a trend which is catching up from past few years. But if we look at the majority of the universities, IB students, as I said, they still want to carry forward that kind of learning outside. And they say that, yeah, I do have, so the kind of curriculum, the kind of rigor that they follow there, they gel well into that kind of rigor there, and the kind of critical thinking, the kind of skills that they learn, their university expects them to do that. Also, somewhere down the line, they do have a system of credit transfer as well, which is not the case here in Indian scenario. We do not have a credit transfer system from the school-based subjects to the university-based subjects. Also, some universities they do have a tube system kind of a thing where you do have, say, after college hours, you have an option of interacting with the faculty members, which can be a part of the roster as well, which can be a part of the college curriculum itself, where students go, they can interact with the university professor, faculty, they can sit with them. You do have teacher assistants as well, where you can get extra help as well. So these are certain areas which draws people outside to the university. Yeah.
Okay. So, Dr. Sagarika, if I can ask you, what's the sense you're getting? Are parents going to be a little reluctant to send their kids abroad this year?
Yeah, seeing the political scenario and also right now the pandemic, parents are really giving it a thought of whether to send the child abroad or no, because already there are many options which have already opened in India, wherein you can have a mix, as I said, a mix of 2 years here and then 1 year abroad, So by the time they're expecting that things would settle abroad, and at the same time the child is not missing a year, that is one scenario where they don't want the child to miss a year. And there is another scenario where the parents and the children don't mind missing a particular year rather than choosing to go abroad at this point of time, even though the universities are offering online admission and online classes are going to begin with blended learning. But yeah, it's a mixed feeling. It's an absolute mixed feeling.
But then suppose a student wants to go abroad but can't go for this year for whatever reason and ends up missing a semester or the year, or so what really are the options? Is it better as an advice to take a gap year, or maybe pursue a course in an Indian university, or acquire an additional skill, do a couple of years here and then go in for masters? How does that whole dynamic work?
Yeah, so actually the thing is that if I have to explain to the audience what is a gap year, because our audience are teenagers, as I can see many of them.
Right.
So actually a gap year is basically a typical year taken away from your high school, I mean prior to your career, where you miss out a year of undergrad or maybe postgrad. It works both ways. Even for postgrad also you can take a gap year, or undergrad also you can take a gap year. And during this gap year, why do people prefer taking the gap year is for the simple reason that they can upgrade themselves, they can upskill themselves, and upskilling themselves could be maybe by taking up internships for work experience, carrying on some volunteering job with NGOs, which could give them a good resume for their university, for their acceptance in university, and then developing communication skills. Many of them could also learn a foreign language, and some of them who have major health problems, who couldn't fix it during their school formative years, could actually take that gap year, fix it, and then go abroad and start a university. So that automatically that gives them, some kind of leeway. It's a leeway. And these days, currently, what is happening is that there are a lot of courses available for skill development. Is the MOOC, the MOOC, that is a massive open online courses on edX, Coursera, Harvard. So these are the courses that children can take sitting back at home. So even if they are taking a gap year while they are researching for the right university that they would want to go, or maybe parents don't want to send them because of these pandemic issues, so they are not wasting time at all. They're absolutely not wasting time, and the simple reason also why people prefer to take a gap year is they can improve on their performance. They'll take time to plan and think. They're able to build a good resume. They can improve on their grades and scores. Like for A levels, you get another, if you can't appear, I mean, if you haven't got a good score in your March, April, your Feb March series, you can go for a April May series, or you can go for a October November series, to get your grades, to improve your grades. So that's also another reason why people do take gap years. And then you can develop life skills. You can manage your finances. Many, while going abroad, finance is always an issue So bank loans, paperwork, everything could take time, and that time then they don't lose out on time, but then they do something here. So this is how a gap year actually helps many of them. So it's a good idea to take up gap year, and universities abroad accept gap year. They really don't penalize the child for having a gap year at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Having said that about, and we've discussed about the gap year, and we heard your opinion on it. Miss Salunke, given this whole situation, in your opinion, how should the Indian universities, do you see them rising to the occasion? Do you see them responding to this situation differently? Because traditionally, I think, and I represent NIT University, and I can say that we've had interactions with students across schools for IB and IGCSE board, but we haven't had uh, too many students who are willing to come in only for the reason because the primary thing on everybody's mind from that board is to be able to study at a university abroad. So given this whole situation, and we heard Dr. Sagarika talk about the gap year, is there an alternate that the Indian universities should quickly do to respond to this situation a little bit more effectively?
Yes, they are taking steps, but I would say it is work in progress or at the transitory stage. The private universities have been very proactive in this, I must say that, but the traditional universities, the central universities, because of the structure, the bureaucracy and the various other things, they are taking time, but definitely they have realized the need for the change in the curriculum, or maybe something to go the hybrid way, or also introducing new courses which will keep the students and the parents in touch with the technology as well as the need of the hour. I would say they have started, a few have actually achieved it, and many more to follow. I'm sure in the coming 6 months, 1 year, our education system itself will undergo a change, not only the universities, but also the schools. In fact, right from class 10th, we have already started the online teaching part as such. The biggest challenge will be training of the teachers in this aspect, and I'm sure, I know for sure, universities have taken that approach also, because over here online teaching is also requires a different kind of skill set, not only for the introduction of the technology for the teachers, but also making the content more friendly, or I would say wherein the child can concentrate. The steps are already on, and I think we will definitely see the change in coming 3-6 months time, depending upon the course curriculum and the university. So I guess we all, with the COVID-19, I think in each and every sector we are seeing the changes, and education is also part and parcel to see the change. So I think students and parents need to gear up to accept the change, and it is going to be different for all of us from now on. That's what I would like to say in this part.
No, I
Monisha,
do. Yes, sure.
if I may just add one
Please.
statement, one thing here, what Ms. Salunke has said. I agree with her completely in terms of course selection and all. See, the only one of the things rather which hinders, or which becomes a major factor for students going outside is again the kind of courses that the universities offer there. So just to give you an example, say econometrics for that matter. No? Econometrics in India at the UG is being offered by maybe just one or two universities, but not many universities are offering. But however, if you look outside, say Netherlands, I would say is a new kid on the block. However, Netherlands is still offering, and there are people, especially students. There is a wave of students who are going in for law, or who are going in for eco, or who are going in for more to do with math and all. They are picking up like anything. So looking at again what the universities, especially Indian universities, need to do at this given hour is also to look at what students want. Why were they looking outside? What is it apart from other factors? What is it that they can do at this given moment of time as well? So, and I think I would suggest that if you can expand the plethora of courses one is offering, definitely it will be a win-win for us.
Thank you, Pooja, because there are a few things, and just like Ms. Salunke also said, it is work in progress, but there are also baby steps. I can talk about my own university, where we have taken smaller steps, whether it is integrating a management program, keeping it open in terms of eligibility criteria to the IB, IGCSE board students, making it a little bit more friendly, keeping in mind their qualifications and their aspirations, timing it to the current requirement. However, what makes me, I'd like to now address a question to Swati, Ms. Vats. What really is the process now of choosing a college? You interact so often with students and you work with them a great big deal, and also with their parents. So is the process of now choosing a college going to be very different for this year?
Monisha. So I would like to add that there are around 320 million students in India who have suffered in some or the other way due to this pandemic. Now, when I say this, so it's education, and definitely college admissions is not immune to it. So previously what was happening, that whenever they were deciding upon their college admissions, students and parents, they used to decide very intuitively. They used to think about in terms of the campus, they used to think in terms of faculty, in terms of extracurricular clubs which they are going to offer. But now, due to pandemic and the type of news which the students are getting, so for example, one of the earliest news which came from US was from University of Washington, that suddenly they announced that we are shifting towards remote learning. Now, the minute they did this, many other universities, not only in US, but in other parts of the world also, they started doing this, that is remote learning. Now, we need to understand the student right now who is planning to go to these colleges are hearing all sort of news, right, starting from remote learning to how there were logistical challenges coming up. Like the dorms were closed, there was no proper food facilities which were given to the international student as per their choices. So there were a lot of sufferings also which came along with this pandemic, and they have seen that different countries have behaved in very different manner. US was successful to some extent. There were other countries who were not that successful in handling the international students. Now this has added some sort of fear in our students who were planning to go outside India. So now when they are looking at those choices, they are not only concerned about the campus, clubs or this, they are also concerned about that if something similar type of crisis comes up, then how that international government or country is going to handle them. So now it is a bigger question in the minds of both students and parents who earlier were moved just by the thought of going to US and Canada are actually thinking that is it safe to be in your own home country right now? So this has changed drastically the decision making process. Earlier, this decision making process was highly intuitive, but now it is more rational. They are actually, students are reading nowadays to understand the policies of the government of what that country is following for international students. So it has completely changed drastically. Now when the students are making, like when they discuss it with me, they are talking in terms of security, safety, logistical challenges. And even if they are saying yes, they would like to know that to what extent an online course of, like most of the universities, they are saying that for the next 6 months, that is from September to Feb or March 21, they will be giving online courses. The tuition fees may range, may differ a little bit, but then the student want to understand that, okay, fine. For example, if I want to do business or economics or any of the related programs, is online program going to justify me being part of that university? Is the faculty going to be good enough? Because we don't have much reviews on their online processes. Every university is saying it's wonderful, but then the students are in a dilemma that to whom they should trust. So definitely the process has changed, and I would like to advise students who are planning to make a decision that when you are deciding, you should definitely consider what are the policies of the university of that particular country. If an online program is being offered, how often is going to be offered, how the tuition fees is being varied, and before making any decision, connect with good counselors, teachers, faculty members, alumni groups, and then make a well-informed decision, which is, and definitely your parents. So you together, you need to make a decision. And another very important point is the changed financial scenarios of the Indian families also. So we cannot say that now a family which was ready till December, January to spend say 1.5 CR or 1 CR on a study abroad education is actually equally means they are capable of doing the same. or the student who was thinking of taking up a loan is actually now is fine in taking up that loan. No, they are thinking now. So the financial structure of the families has also changed. So the student need to sit with their parents, and then together as a, it needs to be a decision which they need to take inside their family, and outside all are like the counselors are there or the faculty members can always help them and strengthen their decisions when they are making such decisions.
A very valid point, Swati. And Dr. Sagarika, if I were to take your opinion, uh, do you really think the Indian students, even from international board, are really up to taking up the whole online learning till the time the university is open? And you know, we have a lot of universities that, like just like Swati was explaining, have moved on to an online learning mode, especially internationally. Is it really well worth the effort as compared to perhaps spending it in a classroom mode at an Indian university of a certain caliber?
Yeah. Actually, I've been speaking to a lot of my students who have come home, who have returned back home from Canada, from US, from UK, Singapore, and Dubai, you know. So it's been a very mixed opinion, but over and above, it's a very positive approach that children have taken, towards the home learning, that is online learning. For the simple reason, I'll just list a few that I have just collated together. You know, there's a very famous saying that it's a popular saying that we must Maslow before we bloom, you know. So it means that all the higher order thinking skills will flourish as long as the learning environment is learner centric. So now these children are actually finding it very, very learner centric sitting at home, and it is just that individual attention that they're getting. If they have a question, they ask a question to the university prof, and the prof is able to answer whatever they have, you know. So that is something that they are really enjoying. Then again, what they have to say that it is very self-paced. The video recordings of the class are being shared with the children, so they can just learn it at their own. Many students also, you know, I mean, something as simple as something that I really couldn't think, that they say that they're enjoying it because they don't have to follow a routine. You know, no timetable, no finding classes in university. In university, normally you need to reach on a campus, and the classes are far away. So you need to reach a particular class at a particular time. So then, and then you need to go back for your dinner, lunch, breakfast. So that kind of running around is not that they're saving in a lot of time. And then they also say that they're saving in a lot of time in transport, the ones who are staying off university campus. So they are enjoying even this liberty of saving time. And some of them have to say that the universities are being extremely flexible with respect to the teaching learning process, because the universities also understand that all the students don't have equal access to internet and the bandwidth. So they are being extremely flexible, and this flexibility is actually a very positive point for students doing online education. At the same time, blended learning works very well for this generation, especially because they are technology natives. So a little bit of face to face, a little bit of technology is working well with them. And also many students are, it was very funny for me to understand that many students are very happy because they don't have to follow dress code, you know. So that is one of it. And also technology tools like, you know, Microsoft immersive readers, they have help built-in softwares that allows learners to highlight keywords, explain their meaning. So even if they don't have a physical copy of the book, with the e-copy of the book that the university is sharing with them, they're able to do all of this using technology. And for the ones who are, you know, mild autistic, dyslexic, and maybe, some anxiety, students with some anxiety and all, they're very happy to be in their own space back home and follow learning. So overall, the feel that I got after speaking to many students who have come back home is it's very positive. And I think they're taking up very well to the online learning, and they know it that it is going to be, whenever there is a crisis, whenever there's going to be a political unrest, this is the way to go ahead, you know. That's something.
I'd like to add something over here.
Sure.
Definitely, I agree with what ma'am said. Students have taken up the online platform very enthusiastically. But over here, we also need to understand that there are some science students, because the reviews which I have received from my student is that specifically science students are missing their labs. So online, and definitely, and the students have developed that resilience and they are happy with the technology, and definitely the teachers has also moved very swiftly and they have started taking classes. But I seriously feel that yes, there are many students of mine who are now just not going back, and they are thinking of actually applying to some other country where probably, or in India, if they can get for 6 or months or a year where they can have good laboratory work or good internships, because many of my students were on that part where they have to start off with their internships also. So definitely there are online internships, but sometimes they're not able to justify the caliber, or the student is not happy in just working all the time in that. So there are many, I think so, many approaches which the student, and there are multiple students, there are individual differences. So yes, few of them are very happy with online, and few of them are really struggling in understanding whether online will justify also or not.
I think that's a very still a state of confusion for both parents and for students. But since all four of you actively work with students of a particular age group, and therefore I'm assuming also with parents, is there a great deal of uncertainty or confusion in the mind of Indian parents who traditionally are if I were to call them controlling as compared to other parents? Is there a heightened sense of uncertainty and confusion in their minds this year? Are you able to feel that?
Can I take this ahead, please?
Sure.
Monisha, I would say definitely, because what we see is parents are not getting a lot of answers also. There is anxiety with related to exams. When are going to be every now and then the exams are getting shifted, whether it will be done or not done. There's a lot of into it. Exams is the biggest part, and also the concern or the confusion is the online content really good enough? Are the fees really able to match up what the institutions are charging and the content with it? And the one more concern which parents are having is, that will my child become an addict to all these things online? Will it affect its mental health and all? So these are the concerns, and the biggest concern which as a parent it is like, I can will it affect the health also, not only the physical health, the mental health? But the biggest thing is there is no clarity from the Indian education system itself. When are the exams? How are the fees? Or when is the academic year going to start? Will there be any entrance exams or competitive exams? Nobody has given any straightforward answers. Irrespective of the board or the state, it's all in a fluid situation. So right now, it's more of anxiety, stress, and concern. I get to know students who are preparing for their CA exams and all. They are not very sure, should I go ahead with this exam? I don't know whether my CBSE board, every now and then, be it a class 10 standard, 12 standard, the engineering, everywhere it's a fluid situation. And that is the biggest anxiety which parents and students are undergoing as of now. If even there was one or two concrete answers, I think the situation would have been eased out to some extent. But as of now, nobody is having the answers.
So I can say about a few Indian universities who are trying to do their little bit by reaching out and ensuring that they alter their policies, keeping in mind this whole uncertainty. Try looking at early admissions, provisional admissions, to ensure that students do not end up wasting their time, and ensure that their academic rigor doesn't get broken up. But like I think you said initially, it's all work in progress, and together it's very important for us to be able to share as much information as we have and continue being relevant. So with this, I'd like to quickly move on to the questions we've been receiving, and we've got a whole lot of questions. Some of them which have been answered by all of you till now in your talking points. However, there are a couple of things that I'd like to just open. Like for example, Anjana from the audience has a specific question, and I can request any of you kindly to just take that. That will the colleges still have cutoffs this year?
Very
Carry on. Yeah.
Carry on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of the colleges have said, I mean, the colleges abroad have already put it that they may not have cutoff. And as I said, that they are going to be extremely flexible. They will look into other skill sets and the resume. What kind of resume has the SOP of the child, you know? The SOP of the child they will look into, and they will look into the previous results, that is based on the previous results and the mock results and the school mark sheets and things like this that they will be getting into. Especially few universities I've seen in India, Cambridge hasn't made it compulsory to get a mark sheet, so few universities are also working with the school prelim mark sheet, the mock examination and the complete track record. So I think it's been quite flexible.
Okay. If I can add to this, Anjana, the universities, and I can again talk only about NIT University, we have considered the fact that you may not be able to get a mark sheet, which is why a holistic evaluation of a profile of a student is going to happen based on their previous academic profile and also through an interaction with the admissions team when the student chooses to apply. So there's Praveen Yelluri in the audience who wants to know, is computer science the best branch for a BTech career?
This is, I think it's a very common question when it comes to BTech areas of courses, the myriad of courses. So I would like to say here that, it's like there's no blanket answer to that as such. So it also depends upon what is your area of interest, what is your passion there, and what are your career aspirations that you're looking for. So I have seen students who have gone into very, the less treaded path as well, and they have made huge success in their life. So it all depends upon again, your passion and how much are you being able to build upon that learning later. So there are cases where we have seen that people have gone into the most trendy kind of courses, but they haven't been able to catch up well later. Otherwise, on the other end of the spectrum also, we have seen those students where they were completely lost in the beginning, but eventually, depending upon your own grit, their own determination, and finding their calling, they have been able to find a peace and also leading a very happy life. So it all depends eventually upon what is your personal area of choice and interest that you're looking at.
Something I would like to add here.
Sure.
I agree with what Pooja has said, and also how much initiative the student has taken to upgrade his skill set also, be it a BTech student or a BSc IT student or a BSc computer science student. It whole depends upon wherever he or she wants to specialize. There are so many certification programs which as a counselor we see that they are just sticking to the conventional what the university is offering. But if they go beyond it, beyond the curriculum, then I don't think it has to be whether BSc is good or a BTech is good. It all depends upon the initiative.
Okay. So I have a question from Pranav Sai in the audience who wants to know a little bit more about a robotics major. What's the scope, and would a BE, BTech or a BSc in robotics, what kind of a degree, if he wants to specialize in robotics, would be a better qualification to have at an undergrad level?
Yeah, I would just like to take that question. So when we talk about robotics, first of all, the student needs to understand that robotics in current situation is a field which is required in all the areas. So whether it is whether you look at industries, whether you look at the manufacturing units, hospitals, everywhere robotics or artificial intelligence is gearing up. When you talk about a BSc in robotics or a BTech in robotics, it actually also depends upon which institute are you planning to do that. Many of the institutes, they offer a more applied part of robotics in a BTech program. So they will not offer a very applied process of robotics probably in BSc. Also, it really matters whenever you are looking for any institute. So there are a number of institutes in India and outside India. So you need to look upon the laboratory facilities, what type of labs are they offering, internships which they're offering, how are they going to apply that robotics thing. So these are few factors which actually a student should consider when they are planning to do this program. And definitely, if you are more technical savvy, you should go for a BTech. I would prefer you going for a more technical area in this field.
Okay, thank you. Abdul wants to know whether the institution and its brand more important, or is the course more important eventually to be able to get a good head start in the career, I think from a placement perspective.
Well, again, can I take this question?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, thank you. So I always tell students that whenever you are planning for studying outside India or within India, you need to understand that what are rankings. So what is the process of rankings? If you will go on to any of these sites that how rankings are assigned to these universities, you will see that the type of faculty, diversity, the type of research which is happening in the university plays a very major role over there. So even I will not say don't go for well-ranked universities. Definitely try for it, but always keep in mind that the ranking is not going to decide whether you will enjoy in that institute, in that environment or not. There are multiple other factors. At times, there are dropout cases in Cambridge also. So students have gone there and they said that I am not able to adjust in this environment. So it's not about ranking. It's more about how you feel about yourself. What is your personality? How much comfortable will you feel in that competitive environment? Then you decide. And when you decide also, I think so there are many universities which are say in 150 or they are ranking 200, but the type of placements they offer, the type of internships which they offer are remarkably better in terms of many other institutes. So you need to this. That's why college decision is a well-researched process. Do that, and then I feel that ranking is definitely not that important. More important should be whether you will enjoy that process of learning or not.
Yeah, and
Also,
to
I
add
would
to
like,
this,
sorry,
yeah, sorry.
you
Sorry,
can
carry
take
on.
it, doctor.
Carry on. Sorry. Carry on.
Okay, just to add with what Swati has said, it's not only the undergraduate studies. If suppose you are not getting the college or the course of your liking, remember there is post-graduation also. I see students just restricting it to after class 12th. If I do not get so and so college or university or a particular course, I don't know how my life is going to be. I think they should also think there is post-graduation courses too in India, abroad, and there are multiple specializations. I think most of the time, which I have seen as the cases which we get into, because of limited information, they come to a conclusion very easily. In fact, it is far more, and there are a number of courses at every level, but the thing is you need to be ready about if a student is getting stuck or a parent is getting stuck that it has to be only after class 12th and only in so and so university, then the going is a bit difficult. But an openness in choosing will ease out a lot of career decisions also.
Yeah, and to add to both of the panelists is that uh, choosing when people choose universities with their ranking and the rating, it is mostly herd mentality, and it's also a lot of peer pressure. A lot of peer pressure that my friend has gone to this particular university, so even I should be going to this particular university. But they don't realize that everybody doesn't have that kind of emotional build-up. Everyone has a different emotional build-up, and in certain universities, being multicultural and being multilingual, they can't adjust over there to the classrooms, to the teachers, the accent of the teachers, and then it is a emotional setback, psychological setback, and also many students become homesick because they are not used to staying without the parents also for a very long time. And with all these things, with it's an emotional setback, feeling homesick, and finally then they return back. So it's a lot of things. It's a lot of parameters that go behind choosing a particular college. So I think the last thing somebody would want to look at would be the ranking, because ranking doesn't really cover all the parameters.
True. Absolutely.
That's a good one, because I think a similar trail is being asked by Pranav in the audience, who would like to know what are the aspects or parameters we should look into while choosing a university. I think most of the parameters you've addressed, but just one a point that I'd also like to add, that I'm agreeing to the fact that you have made which is about not following the herd mentality in looking at something just on the basis of the ranking or the rating, but also interact with the alumni, also interact with their own people who graduated from that university, whether it is for a postgraduate course or whether it is for further education, for corporate placements or academic placements. I think it's extremely important. There are a lot of universities these days, both in India and abroad, which have a mandatory internship that they call, which is part of the course, something that enables the students to get a head start as compared to anybody else in terms of a graduation. So I think those are things that everybody should be mindful of when they make up a choice. So I'll just quickly move on to my next question. There are a lot of people who are asking a typical flavor, and I will not be able to take names because there are quite a few of them with a quick flavor, and I'll just put this across to all four of you for quick comments. How should students prepare themselves for the college admissions for the upcoming year, especially with the COVID and the pandemic scenario, and what are the top two things that they should maybe look at while considering colleges, whether it's in India or abroad?
So I would just like to address that question. So the batch which is going to apply in 2021, first of all, they need to understand that there are a lot of benefits which they are going to get. Like many of the international universities, the admission officers, they have already declared that probably SAT is desirable but not mandatory. Similarly, they have also said that they are going to be little flexible with the internal grading system. Few of the international universities, not the national ones. They have said that if in grade 11 they are not scoring that high because of the online or the remote learning process, they are going to be flexible. But this doesn't mean that their profile is going to be weak. So they are saying that they would like to see that how students have developed resilience and how have they utilized this particular time. Have they so I would rather suggest students that you should take up something online. So you should take up internships online. You should, like earlier Dr. Sagarika was saying, that you can always go for MOOCs which are being given by many of the universities. Coursera is there is Future Learn. So you can always go for these MOOC programs because it really uplifts your profile. Besides this, internships is another way. And then if you can go for some sort of fundraising activities which really can showcase that how have you felt for the society and have tried to give back to the society in some or the other ways. So student force in this particular time really matters a lot. So I will say that you need to work in these areas in the coming few months so that your profile is good enough and it reflects that you are a person with a holistic skills and how you have developed upon it. So having said that, SAT has been postponed, and whenever it happens, please give your SAT because now Indian universities also accept that. So I think so this is how it has changed, and if others would like to add something to it.
If I may add something here. See, again, what is happening in the Indian universities when it comes to, say, their entrance examinations. So few of them are now giving away with their entrance examination and turning it to more of a holistic, where they're asking for their SOP or they're asking for their creative writing and so on and so forth. Now, I think, again, this is the time for them to, upskill their writing content and communication style as well, which, again, I feel somewhere down the line, our Indian curriculum and our Indian students definitely are not very strong there. We are more on the rote learning kind of a thing. And also, of course, we are more used to either going in for the cutoff kind of a category of colleges, or we are going in more for a, say, written examination followed by GT and PI. But very few colleges are looking for any kind of statement of purpose or creativity writing or whatever. Very, very recently, I came across an Indian university where they're asking students to just upload any creative piece that they have been involved with. It could be anything. In fact, in one of the SOPs, the student had written that, I have been involved with music. So they said, and they have asked that student to be ready with an Indian instrument or any instrument that the person has been learning from many years, which the person has claimed to have written in the SOP, that be ready with that instrument to play while your online interview is going on, and which again I feel is a very creative thing,
Right.
So Yeah, so I feel that yes, this is another area of students to learn and understand that yeah, and rise to the occasion that yes, this is something which is new and I should be mentally prepared for. Yeah.
Okay, so I think Behzad Shroff, you also had a similar question, which is about how the system of admissions evolve after the lockdown in the new normal. So I think carrying forward on this, all our speakers have stuck on that topic about how the emphasis is not going to be so much on academic evaluation, but a holistic approach to looking at the student as an overall profile, more in the Indian context than in international colleges. So the emphasis should be on being able to present yourself holistically, not just on academic competence. With this, let me move on to the last couple of questions. I have Alok, who's aspiring for business management studies and is currently in an IB school. So wants to take an opinion that should he continue in India or should evaluate universities abroad.
Yeah, I think as Dr. Sagarika said in the beginning of the conversation that there are universities, Indian universities, who do give you a semester abroad or semester blended kind of an offer. So if you are looking at something like, say, if you have been, what I know is that a lot of students, they have their dream and they have this dream set up right from grade 9 and 10 that I will eventually go outside 12 to outside universities. And coming at what is happening right now, a lot of students I know, they call up and they say that, our dreams have been not fulfilled. I don't know what to do. And they are feeling a little emotionally dejected also because they had been harboring these kind of dreams for many years now. Looking at that, I won't say that you give up on your dreams completely of going outside, because eventually world is going to be restored and everywhere it's going to be normalcy again. So I'm not saying that crush your dreams or give up on your dreams, but what I'm saying is that maybe yes, you can look at those universities which either can give you that kind of an option, or I'm sure, as Swati Salunke ma'am also said, that there are universities who are now looking and revamping their course curriculum. Maybe they will also have online where international faculty members will be coming and delivering the lectures. Maybe they will be going for that kind of a system as well. So maybe just wait for a little while and see how Indian universities are shaping up, and what are they actually getting and what are they offering you in the future. So I feel that you need not be in a hurry to immediately have an overnight decision as such.
So let me just add again to what Pooja is saying. There are a lot of colleges today who offer very, very strong and robust programs in management at the undergraduate level, which is whether it is a BBA course or whether it is an integrated management course, the integrated MBA program. Based on your requirement and your interest, please evaluate all of them. It'll again be a very holistic approach. So it will completely depend on your interest and what is the kind of program that you're looking at eventually, because the advantage of an integrated program, of course, is that it gives you a 4-year head start, and then it kind of qualifies you for a 16-year to, go abroad. Just one.
And these integrated courses are actually easy on the pocket as well. Very easy on the pocket.
Yes. So there's a last question from Tanmay, the last one that I can take. Student aspiring to take commerce, what could be the courses and maybe some top 1 or 2 colleges that you could name? The student is in the 10th grade in ICSE. If I can request any of you to kindly take it.
I can ask you, in which region is it? Is it Mumbai or somewhere?
That's not specified, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the panelist has already said, more than ranking, you need to see what is best suited for you, where are your goals. So if it is a commerce, of course, there is BCom, there is management courses, there are new courses. I will say from the University of Mumbai point of view, accounting and finance, banking and insurance. And also there are private universities which are offering BBA, BCom, and a lot of programs related to actuarial sciences, insurances also. So somewhere the student needs to also consider the aptitude part, the intelligence part, get proper counseling from qualified counselor, and then take a decision. First, they need to know their own core areas and then go about shortlisting. They need to look into where are these courses offered and then shortlisting it, whether it is in India or it is abroad. And of course, follow the process.
Great. So with that, we are coming to the end. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to add a little here what she said that, within that also, so there are, 3-year degree courses, there are 4 years or 5 years integrated courses also. So just make a choice accordingly, what again, the line that you would like to get into and what kind of course, whether an integrated course or a conventional 3-year degree followed by maybe 2 years of master's would take you to the route. Yeah. So just again, take an informed choice there.
Great. So thank you very much to each of you for taking out time. Unfortunately, we are reaching the end of the session. And an even bigger thanks to this wonderful, wonderful audience. We've tried to take in a lot of questions that came in and had been coming in. However, there are still some questions. Maybe we've missed answering a few. We'll be more than happy to take them offline and direct them to our speakers today. Or if there is something specific, the regional admission teams at NIT University will be more than happy to connect with all of you and resolve your queries. And last but not the least, on behalf of the NIT University team here, we wish all the students in the audience and their parents all the very best for your decision for undergraduate study. And I'm hopeful that we'll see a few of you at NU. All the best and good night. Thank you very much once again to the speakers for the evening today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
It is ours.
A pleasure.
Thank you.